Is that 7:30 public hearing is posted as a 7:30 public hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Colin thought she'd be like 15 to 20 minutes,
Yeah.
so. This reminds me of Saturday Night Live. Did I say that last time?
It does sound like, yeah, what they play at the end of the show.
What a terrible soundtrack.
Although they probably, it's geared towards the audience that's sitting there watching those things.
Show.
With guest host Michael
Oh,
Connor.
It's karaoke night.
How was the baseball tryouts? Was it a lot of boys?
There was 30.
Being recorded, by the way.
Sorry.
We ready, Dennis? All
Good.
right, let's do it. Good evening and welcome to the Bellingham Select Board Meeting, April 26, 2021. As we do always, we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a fully attended meeting with Mrs. Grant zooming in under Massachusetts law as permissible. We have two public hearings this evening. I'll kick off with the first one. Public hearing will be held by the Bellingham Board of Selectmen on Monday, April 26, 2021 at 7 p.m. to report on and discuss progress of the town's current fiscal year 2019 Community Development Fund grant and the town's proposed application to the Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development for funding for its upcoming fiscal 2021 CDF program. And Paula, right? Yes.
Yes.
Paula Stewart is joining us. Paula, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, perfect. Floor is yours.
Well, there's been some changes since we published the public hearing, so I'm going to walk you through two things. First, an update on where we are with the existing grant that we have from the 2019 funding. This is our second public hearing on that where we discuss progress. There were two activities in this grant. One was continuation of the housing rehabilitation program, and the second activity was accessibility improvements, including ramps and sidewalk repairs along North Main Street. So housing rehab program, we have requested an extension to complete the grant until December, the end of December this year, due to the delays we've had with COVID. The office was, construction was completely shut down for 6 months during the height of the emergency. And we've gradually gone back into, we were working remotely for that time, continued to process applications and get them ready to go. But it took a while to get back to the point where we could do construction. So we had a 10-unit goal. 3 units have been completed, 3 are in progress against that goal. So after the 6-month shutdown, the office is now open 4 days a week, trying to catch up processing applications. Projects continue to be delayed though by shortages of some of the materials, construction materials, and costs have increased because all of the costs of the materials have gone up. The housing rehabilitation program in Bellingham is run continuously since 2010. It's run 10 years earlier than that as well, but continuously till 2010, with grants in 2010, 13, 15, 17, and the current 2019 grant. Some of these 2013 through 17, we did cooperatively with Hopedale. And in 2015 only, we were also working with Franklin in a regional application. In the last 5 grant cycles, or 10 years, we've received just under $4 million, $3,994,014, and we've completed 88 units in that same time frame. Once we finish the 2019 grant, that number will increase to 95 units. The accessibility project is complete, came in ahead of schedule and under budget, which is something I always like to report. Made installed handicap ramps and made sidewalk improvements along North Main Street at 46 locations, which has improved accessibility for disabled residents of the town. That's kind of the update onto the 2019 grant. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to hear them, or I'll go right into the next grant. What's your pleasure?
If you can go into the next one, we can follow up from there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We initially expect everything got backed up on the new grant application. Normally, Bellingham is on a cycle where we apply every other year. So 2021 would be our normal cycle to apply. Because of COVID and the insertion of an entirely new grant, the CDBG CV grant, which had to get up and running, DHCD got behind, as did everyone, trying to get that new program up and running. And they're all still working remotely too. So it's been something of a challenge. So the initial read that we got from DHCD and what we published in the notice for this meeting was that there would be an application deadline. Normally the grants applications go in March. They were intending initially to move the cycle back a quarter and do them in June. And so that's what we published. And literally the day that the newspaper ad first published, we heard from DHCD that they had now decided that they're going to combine 2 funding years. So they're going to do a combined 2021, 2022 application. So it's combining two fiscal years into one application. Those applications will now be due in March of 2022, so next March. The grant application limit for a single town in a 1-year cycle is normally $800,000. The 2-year limit for one town is $1,350,000. So by combining these 2 grants together, what it means is that what we anticipated would be $800,000 we could apply for is now $1,350,000, which potentially provides some additional options in terms of bigger projects or infrastructure projects or things like that that would be hard to fund if you were trying to get all of the funding from DHCD. So the maximum grant is for 2 years and it's $1,350,000. There was a public hearing recently, I believe it was last week, for potential applicants and communities in regard to this plan that they put out, the combining of the 2 fiscal years. There was significant pushback from some communities, particularly in the western part of the state, where they do big regional programs. The towns are really small, and so they band together some in 10 and 8 and 10 communities to do their CDBG grants, and from the regional planning agencies. And the issue was that they were concerned that given the delay in application date, combining the 2 and having the applications due next March, that they would be facing a gap in funding that they used for paying staff. That was a significant concern for the regional planning associations programs. So that was the big issue that came up. And they also dialed back DHCD. There used to be like an amount you could apply for a single community and for 2 communities and then 3 communities or more. And this year they're proposing the 1 community and 2 communities or more. So the funding amount for multiple communities above 3 has gone down a little bit. Up until now, when we thought this was going to be a single year $800,000 grant, there were 2 activities that had been proposed. Talking with staff in Bellingham. One was the continuation of the housing rehab program, and the other was to continue doing architectural barrier removals to install additional ADA compliant ramps and make sidewalk improvements at additional locations within the town. This purpose of this meeting is to solicit additional input from town officials and residents about activities that could be funded if the now that we know that the grant is a 2-year grant with a maximum of $1.35 million. So due to the revised application schedule, we also will get to do this again late in the year because we have to have a public hearing closer to the application date. So DHCD is assuming that this will be our brainstorming session in terms of ideas for what can be funded from this grant. And then in the fall or early winter of this year, we will do an additional public hearing at which we will kind of finalize what the activities are to be funded out of the 2021 grant, provided that you all vote that you want to go after the money. So that's kind of the synopsis. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Sure, I'll just kick things off with a general comment, and maybe the question goes to you, Paula, or to Dennis and Jim. But the sidewalks that we did were great. I think we got some blowback because people said, why don't you do the sidewalk too? Which was a good problem to have. We're looking at the project from Vendetti down to the town hall. Can we incorporate this money because it's the ADA portion of those sidewalks?
Infrastructure projects are generally only allowed in census areas where you have more than a 50% low moderate income population. There is an exception for accessibility because disabled people are considered to be categorically eligible. So it would have to be something that you could make the case was necessary specifically for handicapped accessibility. And we did sidewalk improvements in the project we did last year, but they were related to the ramps and the areas along North Main Street to make them passable for people in wheelchairs and with disabilities.
And
So the answer is maybe, okay, depending on where.
When we did the prior grants with Franklin and Hopedale, it was advised at that time that we join up. Is that the case now, or are we still looking at single applications?
I'm sorry, we are now running just Bellingham. Franklin only participated for 1 year because they just couldn't get any applications. They couldn't generate enough eligible people to participate. I think we did 2 rehab cases in Franklin. And Hopedale initially had some good participation the first year. And in the last year that they participated with us, they generated 1 case so everything else was done in Bellingham. And there just wasn't any effort in Hopedale to do outreach, except for the senior center. They worked hard, but there was not really any outreach or any effort to bring in additional clients. So at some point, and it's particularly administratively costly and cumbersome with Hopedale. Franklin and Bellingham are in the same geographic area. They have the same registry of deeds. Hopedale is in South Worcester catchment area. So they had different income guidelines, a different registry of deeds. They had different weatherization programs. So everything, we're basically running 2 parallel programs, which increased the administrative difficulty of doing it. And given that there was not enough interest to justify that, as of this 2019 grant, we've gone back to just Bellingham. And also, you used to get, one of the other reasons we did the regional programs was that there were bonus points in the application. When we submit an application, it's scored by certain criteria. And there were a couple of extra bonus points they gave you for regional applications. That got eliminated last year. So there was no additional incentive in terms of how the application would score by doing a regional application. So we opted for simplicity.
Thank you. Dennis, you had a question, comment?
One of the things that we were talking about was improving the access and sidewalks around Harper Street to make it safer for around ball fields for children crossing over. So that was going to be a part of the application that was due in June. So we'll probably continue to work on that. But Paula, in that same area, Harper Street, which I think does fit into the our target area, potentially anyway, we have a school that closed many years ago, and we just haven't taken it down. We use it for storage. It needs to have an abatement. I think the assessment's been done, the environmental assessment's been done, but it needs to have some abatement activity. Is funding ever provided for that type of thing? To help with the environmental abatement of whatever's in there, I think 4 tiles, and potentially for the demolition of the building? Is that something that funds might be available for?
Generally, it would depend. I mean, if you're going to demolish it and put affordable housing on it, maybe. Generally speaking, we can't fund things on public buildings other than accessibility improvements.
Yeah.
Public municipal buildings.
Okay. We'd probably be looking at some parking in another field or something, but not that. But that is one of the things we're looking at as far as sidewalk improvements go, trying to make it safer for the crosswalks down there, maybe a raised crosswalk, or because it's always a white knuckler when you're driving down past those ball fields when it's a busy Saturday night.
Definitely an unsafe neighborhood.
Yeah.
Anyone on the board have comments, questions? Well, Paula, we've done this 5 or 6 times since I've been here, and this gets better every time. So I thank you for that, and we look forward to you returning for the time when we do put in the next application.
Okay, and just for the public who may be listening, we have, the public comments and ideas can come in, and then as you are all discussing what your priorities are, this is a good opportunity. We've got some additional money to either think of another project or a bigger project or whatever your pleasure is. So let us know.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So do we have to?
We have to wait for the public hearing.
Public hearing which comes back, or is this just continuing?
It will be another public.
Another.
Second.
All those in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. 5-0. All right. 7:17. We can't start the 7:30 public hearing, so we'll jump past that on the agenda and go to VFW Poppy Drive, May 29th, 9 to 5, corner of Route 126 and 140.
Motion to approve.
Second.
First and seconded, Dan and Dawn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? I assume they'll be masked and everything else there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make sure they have masks, and I have their insurance on file.
Okay, great. Bid award contract 202 CA casting adjustments.
I can't get the actual.
I move that contract 202-CA casting adjustments be awarded to the low bidder, Casco Construction Inc. of Belmont, Mass. And their bid is a total of $59,103.
Oh, for the side by side, yeah, I can see.
That's what, there's a marquee, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So that's your first, Dan, did you second that?
Second, yeah.
First and seconded, any further questions? Seeing none, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, passes 5-0. Motion to approve the minutes of April 5th and separately April 9th.
Second.
First and seconded. Any changes noted? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None.
Hello.
Okay, Kelly, I believe Cindy is doing your abatements tonight?
Okey doke.
Would you like to do them, Kelly?
Did you do the 6th too? I
By
think-
all means,
Oh,
go
I
right
said
ahead.
What are the 5th and the 9th?
Oh, you did.
Oh,
My mistake.
Yeah.
Chairman,
been a while.
one more for the town.
Bid award.
Say again?
The contract for town intersection improvements.
Town center.
Town. center.
It wasn't on the, it's on the attachments on the.
Yeah, yeah, no, I was asking for the abatements. That was the next on my agenda.
Oh, I apologize.
Just for clarification, am I reading which one of these? It's been a while since I read the
You
abatements.
can do.
Total.
the total.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve abatements in the amount totaling $5,728.58.
Second.
Any further discussion? Just,
I'm
Are you
looking
gonna
through
want me to
there
open
now.
up?
I can't open it up on. here.
I'm just looking to see if there's anything unusual. Is there anything unusual here?
No, if you
Lauren?
look at the very bottom of the front page of the vacancy, gives you all, like.
There's a breakdown here.
I really like that.
Yeah, me
Is that gonna
too.
be standard now?
Yep,
That's
She's been
awesome.
doing that for you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. I didn't scroll down far
Okay.
enough.
The only really big one is, there's two that are 1,600 each, but.
Is that rate
Just
just,
correcting
we're
errors.
waiving the fines, right? Because it was
see,
within the
first
same borders.
one, Second parcel with a garage on it, the stormwater charge should only be assessed on a resident. That was 318 Maple Street. And then the other one was miscalculated and adjusted on Farm Street.
And then if you go to the next page, it actually breaks down all the,
The penalties, the leak, the disputed. Okay.
Glasses on.
So-
Cindy first, you second?
So, yeah.
First and second, it's Cindy and Dawn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, none, 5-0 again. All right, next up, we've got the bid award for the town center.
Mr. Chairman, I move that contract 2021-TC2 Town Center Intersection Improvements be awarded to the low bidder Walsh Contracting Corporation of Attleboro, Massachusetts, for an amount of $2,132,332.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none.
I do have a question. With once this is now Dennis and Jim, once
Billy.
we've approved this, when would the project, technically start?
Well, based on the board's award tonight, I'll be sending a letter out tomorrow, most likely. I mean, conceivably, by the time they mobilize, it's conceivable within 5 weeks that.
Really?
Could be sooner.
Yeah.
For instance, the Medway project, it's a much smaller project, but they delayed that till the first or second week of June. But they could be in here in 3 or 4 weeks getting things set, ready to go.
Good.
They're ready to go.
That's great.
What's the communication method to say avoid the town, or like Medway did a very good job with theirs, but they also had the ability to push everyone over to Village Street.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
I think once we have a pre-construction meeting, which will probably come up in the next 2 weeks or so, we can start talking about that. They should have signage, set boards up, maybe over on Blackstone Streets and all that. So we could definitely bring that up.
Yeah.
We should be able to accommodate us.
The signboard at the middle school has been very well received. Maybe there's an opportunity to make use of that. I know we've only been using it for the schools, but that seems like a pretty good project to get the word out. Or
That would be good. And the bid also does include message boards. That's the first thing you'll see when they start to mobilize. I think it's a week or two before they actually start. They're required to put those message boards in place, saying construction begins, whenever it's beginning, to let people know that it's difficult in that is a seek alternate routes. I mean, that's the primary road.
Absolutely.
North, south, east, west.
Well, I would imagine that, like Maple Street will probably get pretty busy. People will they'll come off the highway, they might take a right, so taking a left, going to the town center, use Maple, which isn't a big deal. It's life, the way it is, but I just want to know when it was potentially going to start and what alternate routes you might use.
Well, I would say it'll be maybe more impactful, but it's comparable to the Maple Street 140 job.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit more complex when you have, multiple Route 126.
Is the plan to do as much construction in the evening after commuting hours, or no?
It's a daytime
It's
project.
a daytime project? Okay.
I'm sorry, how long will it last?
It's a year and 2 construction seasons. So it'll be this construction season, they'll do as much as they can, weather permitting, and then next year they probably, I think it calls for it to be finished no later than December of
2022.
Okay.
It's a long
2
project.
full construction seasons.
Just another question, maybe for the people listening in. All things go well behind us with Loverser. When does those pieces tie in together? Will there be any overlapping construction during that time coming out on Mill Street? I mean, Jim, can you respond to that?
It's still in the permitting process right now, but ideally I've had some conversations with the developer and he's ready to go now. He sees the market and he's ready to go.
Yeah.
So, the early phasing would extend what's Common Street here to Mill Street, which then loops back that way. So the first phase, which would, if all things go smoothly this summer, would be taking, their limit of construction and extending it this way, taking down the dominoes and, bringing the road all the way to Mill Street, and then slowly going that way. I think the first exit is going to be, for construction purposes, is going to be a right only on Mill Street until they line up with this light. And then the third one is whenever they blast through that wall of ledge on the other side.
So that's the question I do have too. A resident actually asked me this the other day. At Mill Street, how are the lights going to line up? Is there going to be another light at the end of Mill Street?
Now, Mill Street will only be, once it's all said and done, a right on, right out, and right in only.
Okay.
What they end up with. So yeah, right now you can technically take a left out of Mill Street, but it's almost impossible.
It is, right.
So that was the agreement, that it would be a right only out of there, so no additional lighting.
Okay.
So someone could theoretically go through a sign that says turn left into Mill Street coming north. Myself,
So you're coming from,
Home Depot.
Home Depot.
And you want to take a left on Mill Street.
Yeah, why wouldn't that be like do not enter and force people to go up to Walgreens and then down?
That's what they're looking to do, is to bring it to a location where the proper light.
Yeah.
And we've talked to each of those business owners down there, and they're all for that. That's perfectly fine for them to go to
They're getting the road fixed and everything else, so
Yeah,
it's
they're getting a lot of improvements down there, a lot of drainage issues down there that the developer will take care of.
nice. We're still not at the time for the public hearing, so Dennis, do you have anything?
Do you want a quick update also on the Lincoln properties? I know you
Yes.
get a lot
Love it,
of
yeah,
questions
yeah.
about large
Yeah.
building and what's going on with that.
Yeah, sure. So we have been getting some updates. They're working on the water line. They're pretty close to solving that issue there. They do have some agreements in place for tenants. We don't know who just yet, but looks like it could be occupied in maybe a year out or so. We don't know anything for certain just yet. But yeah, things are moving along well. The signal is probably, I think it was about 4 to 6 months out, probably, just because the cost or the time frame to get the steel for the signals. But they're, I believe, submitting the 100% design for those signals this coming week, next week. So we should be getting those, and we're trying to coordinate that with Camp Nelly across the street from the apartment complex. They're widening. They're about to submit, I believe, the 75% for that. So we're trying to coordinate those together. But yeah, things are moving along well with Lincoln, and hopefully, I think their goal and really our goal too is to get a signal up there as opposed to a police detail standing there, in the car. So I think we're on track to have that signal up. Maybe by the time they get it done.
So just an idea, maybe the planning board or, led by yourself, Jim, maybe we have some sort of public meeting just to kind of explain before things kick off, just do a public outreach, a Zoom, whatever it might be, to just explain to, because we get a lot of, and we don't have answers at the top of our head. I call you a lot. It'd be great just to open up maybe a couple of different meetings, provide the public with what's going on from a construction, planning, all of that. They can attend meetings, I understand, but I think if we just put something out there that, hey, we're going to update the town on what's going on with construction, I'll bet you'll have a bunch of people listening. And so just an idea, just to give our residents a heads up. What's that?
We did a couple of houses last year where, it was in the height of COVID. So we tried to do a one-on-one where it was just, schedule it in. But yeah, we could do a Zoom where.
That'd be great.
Jim, I know you like to be on TV, so maybe we could broadcast it in, because I think that's a great way for people that might not be able to Zoom in that night.
I mean, in all honesty, we did do the 3-part show, but this is indicative of what's changed. I mean, the Meehan situation has changed.
Right.
Bungay Brook, we know more information about, but maybe there's a follow-up and then blast it out with the link. And, if people don't want to look, that's fine. But
Even with maybe, soliciting ideas, like follow-up, hey, if you have some ideas, send these ideas, here's an email address, send some of your ideas to get our community more involved in what's going on rather than us just telling them, get them a little bit more involved. So, okay.
As the time draws to 7:30, I'll read the public notice. In accordance with Chapter 138 MGLA and the Bellingham Code of Bylaws, the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Monday, April 26th, 2021 at 7:30 PM on the application of Shops Liquors LLC doing business as Ernie's Liquors for a change in beneficial interest for the retail packaged goods license to sell all alcoholic beverages for the property located at 191 Mechanic Street, Suite 6A, Bellingham, Mass. Welcome. I see Ernie, no picture, but I see Ernie's name. Would you be counsel?
Yeah, good evening, Attorney John Meridian. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. John Meridian, Democracy Law Offices. Here on behalf of Shops Liquors LLC for a amendment to liquor license.
We're getting a reverb. I don't know if you have two things open.
That was another individual that logged on. I think, John, you should be good now.
Okay, give it a try, John.
Is that
Thank
better? I'm here on behalf of Shops Liquors LLC for an amendment to liquor license. Amy Naik is purchasing 60% membership interest in the LLC from Ernie Pelletier. It's simply a change in ownership where we're adding Amy as a LLC member. Ernie will remain the manager of record and a 40% member interest holder. That's all it really is. No change to the operation, anything like that. Just adding a member to the LLC.
Just some background. When the license was first issued, I don't think it was contemplated that there would be new owners this quickly. Obviously, that can happen over time. Are there circumstances that precipitated the need to do this, or what got us here?
No, there's no change in owner. Ernie still is the owner, as well as adding Amy, and it still remained the same LLC. That's all it really is.
You're 60%, you're the owner. Ernie's a shareholder, basically. So the way it's
Right.
listed, so no, Amy would be the owner, and it appears on paper that, she's buying Ernie out at, $250,000.
They're co-owners of the store.
They're not
It's
equal.
still, excuse me?
He said they weren't equal owners at 60-40.
At 64, they're co-owners of the LLC, and they share in the profits of the liquor store operation.
Mr. Chairman, is that me?
Yes, Mr. Spencer.
I just want to kind of go back via timeline of how this whole thing evolved. In 2016, Mr. Pelletier petitioned town meeting to get this liquor license. And I'm just going off my feelings and my opinion, but something didn't seem right because he was petitioning town meeting for a liquor license at a location that wasn't available. Town meeting approved it. Mr. Pelletier has been a lifelong resident of Bellingham, so he had, people knew him in this town, and they approved it. 3 years later, Mr. Pelletier came before this board and wanted to now get the approval of this board for this liquor license. Again, at that point, my gut feeling, I voted against it because something didn't seem right. It just seemed like Mr. Pelletier, this wasn't, in my opinion, this was something that Mr. Pelletier was doing on behalf of somebody else. And the license got approved in 2019 by a vote of 3-1. I was the sole dissenting vote. And I said at the end of that meeting, I don't know if it was on the minutes or if it was, I forget exactly, but I said that I guarantee you this license will be transferred within 1 year. Because this isn't a thing that Mr. Pelletier actually wants. He's doing it on behalf of somebody else. Again, in my opinion. That was in 2019. Now I'm looking at this agreement that was entered into in August of 2020 for based on Exhibit A to 3 distributions of amounts of money, in the amount of $250,000 that took place in August of 2020. Correct me if I'm wrong, the doors opened in October of 2020. Is that right? October,
Ernie,
November.
when did you, Ernie, are you there?
November, okay.
Yes, I'm here.
So it was opened in November of the liquor store. Here's one thing I just wanna, I asked specifically, at that time in 2019, if Mr. Pelletier had any intention of actually selling this business or this license. And his answer was, I believe, basically, he said they had no intention of doing this until his young kids graduated college. I don't know if they graduated college at that time or not, but to me, this whole thing didn't seem right at the time, and it seems that my opinion or my gut feeling is valid, because now, as Mr. Martinez said, yes, Mr. Pelletier is still retaining ownership, minority ownership. In an LLC, when somebody has 60% ownership, they have essentially ownership, because whatever that 40% doesn't like, they don't overrule the 60%. So to me, looking at it on a surface is this license that was petitioned in 2016 at town meeting, approved in 2019 at the Board of Selectmen, is now being sold for $250,000. And I don't think it's right, and I'm a hard no.
That's not the intent here. He still maintains ownership in the LLC. If I remember correctly on the special legislation, the license can be transferred at the same location, but this is not even being transferred to a new owner. It's being transferred membership interest.
Right, and actually, at the time when I asked why he sat on this license from 2016 to 2019, it was because the petition that, the location that he petitioned was not available. So there was a location that was petitioned for that wasn't available, that finally became available in November of 2020. The doors opened. This was a 4-year process that now we're 4.5 years in, and ownership is being transferred. I know you're saying it's not being transferred because he's still a shareholder, but when you sell, or when you transfer 60% ownership to of an LLC, you're basically relinquishing ownership because you're now a minority owner. So, I mean, we can word it the way we want to word it. Again, my whole thing was, it seemed like he was just the face of this license because he was a member of the community, and he would be able to successfully get this license and then do something with it. I'm not saying there was any kind of you know, thoughts of malcontent or anything, but there was something behind this, and just looking at this petition now for the beneficiary to get 60% ownership, to me, it basically says that my apprehensions were realized. That's all I have.
Don or Cindy next? Or you already had your question?
No, I'll let Cindy go.
So when we voted 3-1, that was one of 2 meetings I've missed since being on the board. So unfortunately, I wouldn't have been able to vote. If I was here, I would have been no.
So I just, Mr. Chairman, I want to add, so I asked, and the reason why I said yes is because I know Ernie's been in this town for a very long time, and I'm pro-business. But we did ask Mr. Pelletier, you know, and he was pretty emphatic about being here for the long haul. Now, those aren't his exact words. I think Mr. Spencer said it more precise, but the feeling that I got from that meeting was that Mr. Pelletier was in it for the long haul. Not that we're against this new owner, we know nothing about it, but I just personally feel as though we've had a shell game here with Mr. Pelletier, that he said one thing and he's doing another. Now, if he's telling me the business isn't doing well, and he's got family issues, and all the whole 9 yards, and it's real, then I might think differently of it. But I'm really unhappy because he did petition the town gave him the license. We didn't need another liquor store in this town. We certainly did need another liquor store in the town. We have more than enough liquor stores, but we did this. I think you know, it's that side of town, that there's fields, or it's got a different name now, I'm sorry. But it just rubs me the wrong way personally, that he sat there in front of us and basically told us he's in it for the long haul. And 60-40, bottom line is he has no voting right. The 60% owner can do whatever they want. They could even fire Ernie tomorrow and say, see you later. And I'm
That is not the intent here, and
I
this
didn't
is,
say, and sir, excuse me,
you're in,
but Ernie's intent wasn't to sell this a year later either.
he's
'cause
not
it's back
selling
in
the
front of
store,
us.
he's retaining ownership in the store. The
He is
the
selling
ABCC has a
majority-
whole process for amendments like this.
He's selling the majority of his interest to this individual. He's selling the majority interest. I know the difference. Was a partner. I get it. So the bottom line is, at the end of the day, Ernie can't do what Ernie wants to do because it's going to have to be approved by the 60% owner. How much is that 60% owner? Does that owner have any background in liquor store management, purchasing, selling, etc.? Is she part of a larger family network that owns liquor stores? I'd like to know more about the buyer. I just feel like we've been duped here, and I don't like it one bit. And I have solicited Ernie's store more than one occasion, many times, and have made suggestions on bringing in some wines to help him out. Now I feel duped.
So, thank you for your comments.
done.
Before I follow up, Kelly, do you have anything you would like to ask?
I don't have anything. I think everyone has pretty much said what I am thinking, which is kind of bottom line. Like everyone said, we did not need another liquor license. I was at that town meeting. I was not on the board, but I voted against even getting another liquor license in town in 2016. And again, I come back to that 60-40. When you give up that much control, are you really an owner? It's kind of hard to swallow, especially where we don't know. Amy, I'm sure you're a very nice person, but we don't know anything about it. So that's kind of all I have to add.
So Mr. Meridian, if I could ask two questions. One, I guess, how did Amy come to be involved with the loan? And two, when the loan was made, what were the terms, and have those terms been met to this point, and what precipitated?
The loan was made to assist with Ernie's setup of the store. She lent the money to help him get the business running. Now it's being forgiven in exchange for ownership interest at the location. And when you say that, Ernie's no longer going to be there, he's still the manager of record, and albeit a new minority holder, is still working the store and running the store there.
I guess my question is, of the 250,000, have payments been made to date on that, or what was the term of that loan? Was there terms established, or was the intent to do this? And maybe Amy can answer that. Or she cannot.
Well, the terms of the loan were to, they're attached as Exhibit A to the loan. And they have been, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ernie and Amy, you have been payments back to her, correct, Ernie?
If I may, the purpose of the original promissory note was for working capital to do the construction work on the unit, as we ended up taking over 2 units, and the scope of the project had kind of increased fairly dramatically, and then also set up inventory and equipment. And then, so loan payments have been on hold while the business was getting up and running. We are scheduled to resume at the end of the summer. And certainly if the board does not wish to proceed with this, and that's the action that's going to take place. The business isn't in trouble. It's actually had a very good start. And, there's been some mischaracterizations here, which are unfortunate. I'm happy to talk with anybody. But what I have seen since we've opened is that we have definitely gotten the interests of various industry players right around our community. And there is a lot of fairly big money consolidating around us. And really the significance of this particular deal is to preserve the independence and autonomy of this as an independent liquor store able to serve the community. And that's really what I'm looking at here. This is more a play to secure the shop for the long term. And I'm still very much interested in the long term. That has not changed at all. I'm here almost every day. I'm accessible. I can be found fairly easily. And the things that we are doing, we've gotten great feedback on. I think we're doing something a bit different than your neighborhood package store. You know, the whole purpose of what I wanted to do is evident when you walk through the doors. And in speaking with Amy, I mean, that's not something that's going to change. I think part of the attractiveness of this business as something people would want to be invested in and want to work with is the fact that, quite honestly, my plan has worked. And the things that I saw in our area have worked out really well. And so this is really more designed to look forward. I mean, if the business were to revert to a typical packy, like so many we have in the area, the business would falter, I think. I think much of the early success of the business has been I'm onto something and, quite honestly, doing the right thing.
Mr. Spencer, please.
Just curious, why not make it 49% and maintain the majority
I'm sorry, I only caught part of that. I believe you asked about the percentages, and you know that.
Why didn't you retain 51% majority ownership and off 49% of your business as opposed to operating a full 50%? What was the train of thought, if you don't mind me asking?
No, not at all. At the time, you know, 2 years ago, a year ago, I was kind of approaching it from a little bit of lack of industry knowledge. I mean, the last several years I've been really working on this and, you know, gaining as much information and knowledge and background as I possibly could. But to bring experienced people in with, quite honestly, available capital was a big thing. I had some financing that had been lined up prior to the opening of the business, and the combination of, you know, COVID happening and things kind of tightening up, as well as the unexpected availability of the second unit, kind of changed dramatically what I was trying to do and the scope of what I was trying to do. You may recall that the initial proposals and what we were originally looking at was one single 1,500 square foot unit in this building. And then when the other unit became available, the entire project doubled in scope. That's not just the size of the physical unit, that's the amount of inventory you need to carry, the coolers. So, you know, at the time it was more, this is an opportunity to get the funding necessary to really make this a bigger project, which I believe has been crucial to its success and really positions us going forward. So that was really a lot of my thinking at the time. You know, looking at people that had a little bit more industry knowledge and savvy than I did, and quite honestly, available capital. Those were the main considerations. But, you know, again, I want to reiterate, what I'm doing here and how I'm running it is the key attractive part of this to other people. And others have approached me as well, many. But, you know, I am here for the long haul. I am not going anywhere. And if anything, this deal preserves the shop going forward. That's really what I'm going for here.
Ernie, it's Michael. Just a question for you. So I guess I'm wondering if you're being forced to do this. Because as I read page 32 of the agreement, it says for value received, Ernie Pelletier, blah, blah, purchased a 60% interest in the shop. And basically it says that you'll pay 12% interest. And if the interest is not paid, then the borrower or the lender can exercise their right to take over the business for $250,000.
So the short answer is no. I am not being forced to enter into this deal. I'm doing it with eyes wide open and really with an eye more positive in that it looks like we can build a business going forward. You know, I've been in constant contact with these folks, and they've provided me with tons and tons of great information and a lot of useful help. So really kind of what I've been doing thus far is taking all the proceeds from the business and putting it back into our inventory and building out the inventory. And now there's a plan to further do that, quite honestly, and that's kind of why we're looking at taking this action, at least one of the reasons. There's a plan in place, and I think I've got a really solid plan, and I know how the industry looks around me, and I know what's going on around me, and this is in part reactionary, but also in part proactive to make sure that this business remains, not only thriving, but an independent business in the community.
So Ernie, as I read the document at the end of it, question, were installment payments made at all?
Not as of yet. They could be made, but I've talked with these folks, and what we've agreed to do is put the money back into the business. So if they were to approach me and say that they no longer feel that's a proper course of action, then we'll just change what we're doing operationally. That's all.
So I'm not trying to bust your chops. I'm just reading a document and asking. So it says failure to pay any of the installments within 10 days from the date of the same shall subject the borrower to a delinquency charge of 5%. And at $250,000 at 12% annual would mean that you owe $15,000 plus another 5%, which is $12,500. Yet the license is being transferred for $250,000 and not $267,500. Am I doing that math correctly?
Right, but what we've agreed upon is in lieu of the payments right now, we're putting that money back into the business. So it's strictly going into inventory. So, that's...
How do we get to the 60%?
I'm sorry.
How do we get to valuing $250,000 license at 60%? That would put the whole license at roughly $450,000.
Correct. I mean, if you look at an active business with a license, that's not out of the realm of reason in our area. And, I think the numbers were kind of, they came upon fairly and with give and take on both sides as to, valuation. I think if this business was a little bit more mature, then maybe it's a different conversation in all honesty. But I'm very comfortable with what we've got lined up and with the prognosis for the future. I really don't see any negative to it at this point.
Okay, well, I think as Dan said, we did vote 3-1, and
yes,
your lineage in the town carries great weight. I'm just reading into some numbers, and the only thing that troubles me, and I don't even know if it could trouble me, is that 6 months ago we were here and now we're back. And
right.
I'm just wondering if this was planned all along, that you would have the investor, and where Amy will be the majority owner. Could she elaborate on her background?
I'm sorry, do you want me to address the planning part? You're asking each of us.
No, I mean, if we are going to relinquish 60% of a liquor license, I'd like to hear what the owner's background is.
Okay.
Amy, can you explain your background in liquor licensing? I believe you worked at a store before.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me properly?
Not as well as we could others, but we could, yes.
Okay. Yeah, hi. So yes, I have worked in the liquor industry and convenience store as well in the Worcester and Grafton area. Even my family has other businesses which I always help in. And now I want to just carry forward with Mr. Ernie Pelletier. And I know, as he said, I mean, he is the majority running in that store person. He's the main holding person. He's the owner. So as we started with him, it's a more financially support to him, but he's a more key person, and we are definitely sure that he will do it 100% to it.
And I just want to back up to a comment made earlier. Just because she'll be a 60% member interest holder does not mean that she can unilaterally fire or terminate Ernie from the business. There's still an LLC operating agreement that they'll adhere to, and will, determine what controls who and along those lines.
Can I say something?
Please.
Yes. So yeah, it's a major goal with both of us. We want to make this business successful. So it's not like 60% is just a number in finance, but not in authority. So we want to make this happen and run this business well and give a good service to the town. So, and I trust Ernie Pelletier, Mr. Pelletier, that he will, there is no up and down in partnership. It's just a finance, it's there. But he is the key person and he will lead this business.
So John, you're saying there's a separate agreement specifically that says how the LLC is going to be run and managed?
Well, there will be an operating agreement when the closing takes place, provided this is approved in terms of operation of the LLC. I'll liken it to a corporation. Just because someone's a minor shareholder doesn't mean they're forced out simply because they're a minor shareholder. They still have operating rights along those lines. And this will be the case here too.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Sitting back and listening to all of this, if this is just a transfer to some other organization, it'd be fairly straightforward. There's just some stuff around it that none of us really like, and I guess that's a challenge. And it's not a personal thing with Ernie. The way this reads to me is that in what Amy said, she helped Ernie finance. Ernie needed finance. Some financing fell through. So Amy's family or Amy personally supported Ernie. And as a result of that, there's basically two agreements here. There's he can pay this back, or he can transfer 60% ownership. And I think it sounds like that's the latter. That's the route. Instead of Ernie paying back the $250,000 plus interest, et cetera, that's the route that Ernie's choosing to do so. And I'm not even going to suggest that Amy's family is forcing Ernie to do this, but this is probably the least painful for Ernie, is to transfer this ownership. And he's got some sort of operating agreement. He'll stay on for future. He'll be paid a salary. He'll be, whatever he gets at the end of the year from bonuses, that's up to the organization. And that's really what it sounds simply. But it doesn't, but it stinks. It stinks. That's all I'm saying. It's not, if Ernie said this is why I'm doing it, it may not, I've got to do it like I said. It just kind of like this was set up from the very beginning. And I don't know if Amy's family approached Ernie, or this was Ernie's dream to own a liquor store, and he had to reach out to someone for financing. Maybe that's what happened here. I just, I think if Amy's family came to us, we probably would have said no to another liquor license. And it's not a personal thing. We don't need another liquor store, but because Ernie was the face, Ernie's been a longtime resident, served on the school committee, et cetera. A few of us said, yeah, why not another business? But now it just stinks for me. It just does. I'm sorry. It's not personal, but if it was just a simple transfer of ownership, I get it. I see it all the time.
Well, I understand that, but I think in terms of you saying it stinks, if Ernie turned around and sold this store to a new corporation, a new operator, not retaining any ownership, I think you would have a bigger issue with that in that instance than it is here, in terms of Ernie is maintaining ownership in this operation and remaining with the store.
Yeah, I need to step back and take the emotion out of it and think of it like a business, and that's what I need to do. So I don't think I'm ready to vote tonight, just because I need to think about this a little longer. I might say yay, but I just need to think about it a little bit longer. I just can't be presented with this information and make a decision tonight. Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr.
So,
Spencer.
so my understanding is, so the $250,000 loan was made. There have been no repayment installments since August of 2020. Is that correct?
Correct.
So Amy, strictly saying that this is a financial decision, was willing to basically say that I'm going to loan this money out. I'm not going to require any payments back because in April 2021, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have 60% ownership of this LLC. And
It's not an underhanded intent like that, as Ernie said.
I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that was a gamble that she was taking on $250,000. Yes? Is that fair to say?
She made an investment.
By not requiring any installment payments that pursuant to the contract that Mr. Connor talked about on page 32, and she's foregoing any kind of penalties and interest. And
she can make the loan and decide to do that. That's,
Absolutely.
freedom of her to do.
Absolutely.
But
And has she done that?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Has she exercised her right to force the sale?
She's not forcing the sale. They've come to an agreement rather than forcing, pay me back now or give me, or you're done, the business is over. She's willing to work with them and buy into the business and make it work together.
I just can't envision a world in which a year from now, there's another 20% going away until the final 20% is going away. Again, just my gut instinct. This is my feeling in 2016. Ernie had petitioned in 2016 to do this. And when the store finally opened, he's relinquishing 60% of ownership within 6 months. This is a 5-year process, and within 6 months, he's relinquishing 60% ownership. Something doesn't feel right. And again, I'm a hard nut.
Kelly or Cindy, do you have any thoughts, or what's the pleasure of the board? You had mentioned waiting.
Well, first, I know Dan's, I'm not going to try to change it. I need a little time to process this personally. I'm letting my emotions get in the way of making a business decision, which this is business, and I don't want to do that. Like I said, I do feel like there's some stink around this, and I don't like it. And I just want to step away and not make a decision tonight. So I would make a motion to defer a vote.
Can I just make it?
Yeah, please.
Mr. Chairman, can I just make a comment really quickly?
Please.
I appreciate what Mr. Martinez is saying about taking the, emotion out of this, but I wasn't on the board when the 3-1 vote happened to approve this in the first place, but didn't emotion kind of play into why this was voted in favor in the first place? Because Ernie was a lifetime, Bellingham guy and wanted to support his business. I mean, I think there is some emotion into it. I get the whole business side of it, but I mean, I feel like that's the reason it was voted yes in the first place.
One more thing.
Please.
Just also want to remember that the liquor license is the town's.
Yeah.
We own the license. So what we choose to do with the license is up to us. I just want to throw that out there.
Okay, so we have one option is to take a vote. We have another option to continue the public hearing. I know your answer. Kelly, is it your interest to take a vote or to continue the public hearing?
I would rather just take a vote, but I will defer to what the majority says.
The reason why, in addition, I want to think about this is because I really want to understand Amy's background, family background, because I don't want to just say no to a potential really good business owner in this town, which their family may very well be and could be good for the community. So I don't want to just say no. I'd like to know more about Amy and her background. Do her families own other than convenience stores, do they own liquor stores? I'd really like to know a little bit more about the person coming into the town and investing into the town and investing into that liquor store. It could be anything. We you know, when people come before the town and want to put up warehouses, we do our due diligence. I haven't done any due diligence on Amy, and they could be a really strong family, a really strong business owners with a great reputation. That's what we want in the town. So I don't want to just say no because I'm mad, but I'm not going to say yes until I do some more due diligence.
I understand your point, Mr. Martinez. I just feel like we're now giving Amy, it's as if Amy's applying for the liquor license, which indirectly is now happening, even though Ernie's the one that came to us.
And that was the concern that Mr. Spencer had
Yeah.
with going
And I'll
back to
be
town.
honest with you, I'm mad,
Yeah.
because I feel as though the town was played. Period, end of story.
So for advice, Dennis or Hillary, what is the process if this board were to say no? I mean, obviously the ABCC is then
Yeah,
involved.
they can appeal your decision to the agency.
And then what's
Never had
involved with
that
that?
happen.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. Have you ever had that happen?
Yeah.
Mr. Meridian or Mr. Ernie, I think the issue that caused some sentiment is that if this was one of the original liquor license allocated to the town based on population, it would feel different than if it was one that had been garnered by going to town meeting. And within 6 months of opening the liquor store, it is transferred, and I think the residents of the town voted because it was Mr. Pelletier. And there's that feeling that it's not Mr. Pelletier, even though he would be involved. And reading page 32, it strikes me that no payments were made. And I don't know how we got it 60%, but if we use the liquor license that was sold by Gateway Liquors, which I believe was in the neighborhood of $500,000, that would put the interest at 50%. So my question is whether the 5% delinquency charge was in effect, that no interest payments were made in the last 6 months, and I don't quite know why that may not have been made if Ernie entered into an agreement knowing that no interest payments will be made. That portends that we are going to get to where we are today. So I think that's the sentiment of Mr. Spencer shaking his head that it didn't feel right. And again, this is a business issue. And we represent the members at town meeting who put that faith in Mr. Pelletier.
If I recall on the special legislation, there was a restriction in that legislation that the license could not be transferred to another location. It could be transferred to a new owner at the same location. So this is not violating that restriction. This is not a underhanded attempt of the town to its citizens or to the board or to the town meeting, which was it approved in. This is a new shareholder, a new ownership into the LLC. There's no. Amy has a clean record. Doesn't have a quarry issue to deny this on. There's no malintent there either.
I don't have a response to that other than to question why no interest payments were made in the last 6 months and whether Amy has forced the hand of Mr. Pelletier to do this. And if that's the case, that's a business decision and that's fine. Both parties entered into an agreement and here we are today. So I would say that I believe I'm going to vote in favor of Mr. Pelletier's reputation and support that, but I don't know that putting it to a vote tonight gets the outcome that you would want, based on what I'm hearing from members.
Well, what is needed then from the board to change here? I mean, it doesn't sound like we can convince, I don't know the chair's names to your left, my right, that are against this.
I've been against it from the start. Because again, I feel as though that Ernie was just the face of getting the license until the time came, until the license could be transferred to whoever actually wanted the license originally.
So just hypothetically, suppose you deny it tonight, you deny the stock transfer. You're going to force Ernie to run the business himself without outside help. And then what happens?
He said he was going to do back in October of 2019.
Right, and he's struggling. So what happens in 2 years if he wants to sell the business to someone else?
I think that goes to Mr. Martinez's question at the beginning.
Which seems like it would rub him the wrong way if he flipped it.
There was a reason this was happening, as opposed to just selling the license to profit off of the license that he got from the town.
I think, Mr. Meridian, there may be, and I can't speak for any member if you want to agree, I think that if some interest payments had been made, it wouldn't look as if it was engineered for this to happen. And you know what? I'm not sure we should care, but we do. Well, some members do care in the negative or positive. So.
And I don't think caring is really should be taken as a negative
No.
from this board.
Agreed.
And that's why I said I want to take out the emotion thing, because this is just a simple stock transfer. We see transfers of management at Outback and all this other, but I guess what Mr. Spencer said, who's to my left, to your right, it just seems as though that now Ernie's profiting from getting what did the license cost Mr. Pelletier? Nothing, right?
Just license fees.
Just the license fees. So it seems like there's a significant profit that Mr. Pelletier has made in a very short time by getting this license, and then yes, selling 60% interest, but he got $250,000. And that to me, honestly, rubs that, I guess, a great investment, but it's almost like we were duped. The town was duped.
But to that end, though, if you look at Exhibit A, Mr. Pelletier didn't get the actual turn. He got the start of the business. What he has is the value of 40% that remains.
Right.
Right.
I don't want to go crazy on this. I really don't. If it wasn't for the timing of it all, probably would be very different.
Okay, so are you prepared to vote at the?
I'm gonna. I need more time.
Okay. So, Mr. Meridian, I will put it to you that we can take a vote tonight, or we can allow Mr. Martinez to review the information. And
I guess my question to that is, what
I want to know more about.
What would you want?
I want to know more about Amy's background. I want to know how long she's been in the liquor business. I want to understand the family, where that $250,000 came from. Was it her personal savings? Was it a loan from her parents? Was it a loan from a company in her family's business? I want to know. I want a trail. I want to understand.
I guess, Mr. Meridian, I would point out that, obviously Amy's on mute right now, and when she wasn't, it sounded like there was a gentleman in the background speaking to her. So is she the front for this, or is there other investors?
No, it's just Amy. But I can get you a narrative of what you're looking for in terms of her background and what's going on here. Certainly.
And it's not an indictment on Amy. It's me doing my due diligence. But if this board decides to vote tonight, then
I think we close the public hearing, we make a vote, and then if they want to come back with additional information, they're more than welcome to. That's my thought.
But if we take a vote and it's in the negative, why would they come back? They just go to EDCC. Okay.
They can do that too.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Is there anyone in the public? I see Beth and Doug Martin, I don't know if you're here for this meeting.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, the floor is yours.
Sure. This is Doug Martin, 10 Dupree Road of Bellingham. I'm just wanted to speak up in favor of Ernie's Liquors. I think he's done a great job with the setup. It's definitely a unique feel, and I feel like the town should be some more supporting small businesses and open and doing everything we can to keep them in town. That was it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the feedback. Beth is no last name, but I'll assume by staying. Huh?
That's our best.
Our Beth, sorry. Thank you. All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
First by Mr. Spencer, second by Ms. McNulty. Mrs. McNulty. With that, I'll entertain a motion. Huh? Yeah, need a vote.
On the closing of the public hearing.
No, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 401 on the vote for the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
To deny the change of ownership percentage of the LLC for the shops.
Second.
First by Mr. Spencer, second by Ms. McNulty.
What was the motion? Sorry.
Yeah, I couldn't hear what Mr. Spencer said. If you could reread that, please.
Motion to deny the change of ownership percentage for the shops LLC.
Seconded by Mrs. McNulty. A yay vote will be to deny because that's how the motion was laid out. So all those in favor of denying the vote, say aye.
Aye.
All those nay,
Yeah.
nay. 3-2, it is denied. Mr. Meridian, you know what the next steps are with the ABCC, and you are welcome to pursue that.
Yeah, when we'll receive a denial notice, when,
Hillary, when would that go out? Be sent tomorrow?
okay, thank you.
Right. Okay, any old business? Any new business? Having met the meeting of April 26, 2021, I'll entertain a motion. Actually, Dennis, are we going to executive?
Yes, I'll be asking for executive session update the board on contract negotiation.
Before we close that, we have to pull the board, correct? Hillary?
Yes.
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 Mrs. Brand, are you joining them?
No, I got to sign off.
Good luck, Kelly.
Thank you.
Tomorrow.
Motion to
Thank you.
close the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
No further follow-up after executive session.
Second.
First, second with Cindy. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, 5-0.